Live on WFLA Now. Feel good and live your best life with Bloom Health Club. Here's Gail Guayardo.
Oh my gosh, we are with one of my all-time favorite people. She is a 4-time New York Times best-selling author, nutrition expert, all-around fitness guru, my friend JJ Virgin. I'm so glad that you could join us in the Bloom Health Club.
And don't forget your fellow goat yogi.
That's right. That's right.
Goat yogi.
That's right. We do segments where we go out with a dear friend of ours, Dr. Lisa Coach, and we have like just fun in the community, good, healthy fun. And of course, as always, our digital reporter and producer, BloomTampaBay.com, Brody Waddell is here with us.
That's right. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Keeping us in line.
That's right.
Someone has to.
So let's talk about you and your remarkable career and how you've been able to ebb and flow throughout the years to who you are today.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I want to rewind.
Wow, where do I go with this? Like, do I start with my tap dancing career? Or
Yeah.
You know what I will tell you? I am more excited about what's going on in the world of health, fitness, wellness than I have ever been. I think there's so many more tools, so much information. I think it is a great time to be 50 plus.
Yes.
Right? So
It is a great.
is.
I'm so glad you said that, because back in the day, to be 50 plus, you were basically dead on the vine.
hill,
You
right?
were over the hill. You were forgotten. You were already out in pasture, like that poor goat you're looking at. And so that is not the case. And in fact, Brody over here did an article not long ago about the age gap between men and women, and no longer is it the old geezer out with the young girl. There's been a switch in dynamics.
It's the ladies leading the charge.
Yeah,
on that
well, I
now,
married
which
a
is very
younger
interesting.
man.
I did too.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, I
Interesting.
did by 7.5 years.
Well,
And-
you got me beat.
All right.
But at least I did marry a younger one.
Yeah,
There a
yeah.
little
So
bit, you know.
it's all good. So but we can take our health into our own hands, and the tools are out there. And that's really what you do, JJ, is you show people the tools.
Yes, and make it simple. I think the thing that I love the most is there's more information now than ever, and people are more confused than ever. And people are in worse health than ever. So clearly, it's not that we have an information deficit. We have a take action deficit. And I think that's because we're confused, you know, that analysis paralysis. So I think if we keep things so super simple, like what do you need to do? And you did one, we talked about it before, is that the whole idea of eating protein first.
Yeah.
Like, let's take your diet. What if we just picked one thing to start with there?
Right.
And all we did was you're going to eat the right amount of protein for you, and you're going to divide it throughout the day, and you're going to eat it first.
Yeah, and that's what the one thing, because I was like, if you could see JJ's arms, she's shredded. I mean, you're incredible. She's like a workout guru and can help you in that arena as well. But I was working out with a lot of heavy weights, and I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see. So I started to shift, and I followed your guidelines of eating the proteins, starting it with breakfast, working it throughout the day. I wasn't eating nearly enough protein, and I've started to see changes.
Nice.
Yeah, I
we
feel
should go do a DEXA scan. So I've got some ideas for some segments, and you're coming. I built out a home gym that we can tape in. That's the whole
I
reason
love
I did
that.
it.
Ooh, that'd be
And
cool.
so we could do a DEXA scan. We can do my Tanita bioimpedance scale. And then, are you taking creatine?
I'm not.
Oh my gosh!
I need to be on.
Come on,
See?
That's
This
the
is
next
why you
thing.
got to have JJ
So-
in
What
your
is
corner.
creatine at these fitness?
Yeah.
Creatine for women is the thing. Like, if there was one powerful aging supplement for women beyond just, of course, eating protein first, lifting heavy things, and sleeping through the night, it is taking creatine. Women have 70 to 80% less creatine stores than men, and then they don't eat enough protein, or they get all plant-based. And this is an animal-based nutrient, right? Molecule. Creatine is going to help you lift heavier, recover faster, have better bone mineral density, which will result in more muscle.
I love it. Now, I want to go back to some of JJ's hacks that we've done over, actually out in the field together at your home. We did a cold plunge, which
You
is
loved it.
I could learn to love it, maybe. Not like you. I mean, you were able to sit in there for how long do you sit in ice cold water?
So here's what's fun. We actually are moving it into the house.
Okay.
Because we did the gym. We're creating a biohacking lab so we can get it colder for you.
Okay.
Because that
Oh,
was
nice.
48 degrees. Now we're taking it down to 40. And I got to the point where I could sit in it for 8 to 10 minutes. But,
Wow.
my buddy Mark Sisson goes, you only have to do 4 minutes. And I'm like, all right, if I only have to do 4. The point was to get yourself shivering for 30 to 60 seconds afterwards, because what it's basically doing is browning your white fat, making it more metabolically active, have more mitochondria, so it's easier for you to create energy and to burn it off.
Okay. Do you take cold showers, Brody?
Not really. Like, I know that's all the rage right now. I do that when it's really hot, but yeah, I know that really people use like the cold and then the hot. I've heard of people like doing the cold plunge and then going into a sauna right after too.
Do you do that?
Which we're getting a new bigger sauna.
Yeah.
So we can have a sauna party.
I like that.
So yeah, that's the ultimate is hot, cold, hot, cold.
Brody and I would like an invite to this party. You
Yeah,
speak
that
up.
sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of mental anguish.
So what else do you do as you hack your way through your days?
So, well, the big one is tracking.
Okay.
Is using an app to make sure you really get what you need. I will tell you that we went and did DEXA scans, Tim and I, my husband, and Tim was a classic skinny fat. Now, what's great when you do a DEXA scan is it's not me being mean. I do not say, hey, you're looking skinny fat over there. That would not be good for the relationship. But when you do a DEXA scan, which we used to do for bone mineral density, but what it tells you is how much skeletal muscle you have, how much fat you have, and how much visceral adipose tissue, the very bad fat.
Okay.
And Tim came out at 25% body fat. Now, men have only 3 to 5% essential fat, where women have 10 to 12%. And men, athletic males, should be somewhere in the, 5 to 12%, and the normal male 8 to 18%. So like 25% was ridiculous. And he saw that, and it finally, like the things I'd been saying, hey, you should track, he finally did it.
Yeah.
He started taking creatine consistently. He started lifting heavier weights and dropped 20 pounds of fat, put on 19 pounds of muscle. We just redid his body fat, and it is now 8%. It was 25%, went to 14, went 25, 18, 14, 8. Like, he looks like an entirely different person at the same weight.
Wow. How long did this take him?
So this will have taken him, he did it fairly quickly.
Okay.
Normally, like an average person could gain maybe 2 pounds of muscle a month.
Okay.
Like, you don't gain a lot of muscle, and you can lose about 2 pounds of fat a week. He also went on testosterone.
Okay.
So
well,
that
yeah.
amplified the results. Like, if he had done, I wish we could have done this and then that, so we could really have seen. But now it's been about 9 months.
I'm so glad you brought up the testosterone, because what are your thoughts on, I mean, obviously women need it too. What are your thoughts on the whole hormone replacement?
So women, actually, the hormone we have the most of is testosterone.
Okay.
I think that the single most important thing that we can do as we start to age is, number one, make sure our thyroid's working well, make sure we're really dialing in our adrenal health, like how we're handling stress, because our body's going to lean on that as we go through menopause, and then start to replace those hormones as they go down. Because if you look at what happens to women when estrogen tanks, they start to lose their brains, their bones, and their heart. And you can see it in all the labs. You can just know, you'll walk into a room and go, why am I in the room? What did I come here for? Like, it's so clear. And if you look at now, they're coming back and really pulling apart that stupid women's health initiative that was so poorly done. And like, if you look at it now, you realize women die because their estrogen tanks. They start to become insulin resistant. They start storing more fat. They lose muscle. Right now, 11% of women 50 to 60 have sarcopenia. That is frightening. We need estrogen. Where men need testosterone to build muscle and have a great mood, we need estrogen to do that. If our estrogen's low, we will not be able to build muscle well.
Okay.
So it is mission critical.
I know there have been a lot of new studies. I was just talking to a doctor in the Tampa Bay area this weekend about the studies that kind of debunk all the terrible things that went along. Because now with the right labs, I understand there's an incredible lab out in Colorado, and you're getting this bio-identical, giving your body what you need will help you age better and with less disease.
Right. So age powerfully is my whole platform now I'm building is age powerfully. Here's why. Starting at actually around age 30. This does not have to happen, but it can if you are not doing something about it. You start to lose up to 1% of your muscle mass a year. You start to lose 2 to 4% of your strength. And where I saw an issue, and here I was lifting weights and doing everything, but all of a sudden I was the one who was the jar opener at the house, and I couldn't open the jar. I was handing it to my son, and I went, uh-oh, my grip strength went down. Lower grip strength is correlated with higher all-cause mortality. It is very clear. Like if, same with low gait, poor VO2 max. But the biggest thing we lose is power, and that is that explosive speed. That's what we lose. That's that ability to get out of the way of something. So if all of a sudden you have to catch yourself, you don't fall and break a hip. Because you've seen the hip statistics, like 65 plus, you break a hip, the chance you get out of the hospital and don't die within the first year is like bleak. So, we have to start to focus. Like, I think we're looking at the wrong things. We're focusing on our cholesterol. Well, focus on getting good hormone balance, because if estrogen's low, your cholesterol is going to be a mess. Focus on lifting weights to be more insulin sensitive so you burn fat. Stop looking at the scale and worrying about what you weigh. Start looking at the scale as using bioimpedance to know what the weight's made up of. I mean, Tim's the perfect example of, he was the same weight he's been his whole life, but he had an entirely different body because he'd lost muscle, put on fat. But you wouldn't know that from the scale.
Interesting. Yeah. And this thing that they say that muscle weighs more than fat, that's not just, that's the truth.
If you want to lose a lot of weight, like when I was on Dr. Phil, we did this contest where the winners, we divided them into two groups for the weight loss challenge. And the winning group got to go to Canyon Ranch. So the night before the weigh-in, I did not find this out until like the week after we announced the winners. And I was like, we didn't say they couldn't do this. The night before the weigh-in, that group, or the day before, they didn't eat a thing. They didn't drink a thing. Mm-hmm. All they did was cardio all day long. And then they went into their rooms. They turned the showers on as hot as they could. They stuffed towels under the doors and they sat in there and they sweat. And they came in the next morning, and I was using a bioimpedance scale that was based on total body water. So I could see what had happened, right? I was looking going, uh-oh, they just dehydrated themselves. They won by a ½ pound total overall.
Wow.
So the reality is the other group should have won.
Wow.
But they were smarter.
Okay.
But here's the thing. If you want to lose a lot of weight, what you should do is starve yourself and sit on the couch, because you will lose a lot of muscle. Don't eat protein. Like, just have some sugar. Drink, don't drink very much and sit on the couch. You'll lose a ton of muscle. Or fast. You'll lose a ton of muscle.
But that's not really what you want to do.
That's the worst thing that you could do.
Right.
That is the single worst thing that you could do. As you're aging, the last thing you want to do is lose any muscle, which is why we have to be so careful when we have things like, I just had surgery. I'm like, I'm not going to not move for any amount of time, because it's 7 to 10 days on bed rest, you become insulin resistant. You'll start to lose muscle. So you got to keep moving.
So what do people that are listening now, because you've made so many incredible strides in your life, you say we started off this entire conversation with the fact that there's a lot of information and people kind of stay stuck because they don't know what to do. They get scared, they don't know what direction to turn in, so they do nothing. So if you had to start today making changes, what would you do?
I always like to do the biggest needle movers and fix the big things first. I think we tend to look at, start to major in the minors. We need to major in the majors first. And of course, changing it what's the end of your fork can make a big, big difference. Do you know, we all hear about ultra-processed food and how bad it is. However, they did a study, a sandwich study. One group ate, and so both groups ate the same thing for 2 weeks and then flip-flopped. So one group for 2 weeks ate what my mom used to pack me for school, which was American cheese product. It's not even cheese, it's cheese product on Wonder Bread. So one group ate white bread, cheese product. One group ate whole grain bread, cheddar cheese. And then they flip-flopped. During the 2 weeks that people were eating the white bread ultra-processed, they gained 2 pounds. What they discovered, and during the 2 weeks they ate the other, they lost 2 pounds. What they discovered is when you eat ultra-processed food, you actually overeat and you have a lower thermic effect from the food, which is a double whammy. The ultra-processed food tends to make you want to eat more, and it also has a lower metabolic effect after the fact. So if the first thing that we just did was eat protein first based on the amount you need for your body, and we replaced some of those ultra-processed food calories with protein, protein has a bigger thermic effect than any of, than carbs or fat. It's like takes 20 to 30% to go through muscle protein synthesis and turnover. So if all you did was say, double up your protein, push in, and don't even worry about the other, you'll eat less because you're full, right?
Right.
Protein's super satiating. I double dare someone to eat like 20 ounces of wild salmon in a sitting. It's like no one's ever said to me, God, I really pigged out on that chicken last night. That was terrible. I can't believe I ate 12 chickens. Never. It's never happening. But they'll eat the pizza. So if we could just focus on that and then focus on getting some kind of movement in to start. And the cool thing is, the more deconditioned you are, the easier it is to see an effect. Once you're in better shape, it takes a lot more. But for someone who's doing nothing, if all you did was start walking 20 minutes a day after one of your meals, a couple of weeks, you'll see a difference. You'll feel a difference. You'll see a difference in your waistline.
Talk to me about your new focus on women. If you log onto your website, it's 40 plus. But at the start of this, and if you're just joining us, JJ said that it's a great time to be over 50. And I would have to say, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. And I was dreading my 50s.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was
Why?
dreading. Well, because this is back when I was 30 and I'm like, oh, that's going to suck. But
it's not your mama's 50 though. That's the thing. Like my mom at 40 was like so old.
Yeah.
Like so old. She just acted old. She was old.
Right. And today that's not the case at all.
We do not act like that.
We do not act like that. Age. There's a lot of life to be lived. And I think crafting your life the right way now can just make all the difference in how you enjoy everything that you worked for.
So I have a group of people, we would go to the Grammys every year. And the last Grammys we went to before the pandemic was Dolly Parton, J-Lo, Diana Ross. And I remember watching Dolly Parton, she's 73? And then Diana Ross was having her 70th birthday and she was in this big ball gown. I'm like, look at these women. They are the queens and they are 50s and 70s out there. I have another girlfriend who's one of the top transformational leaders in the world and her career is bigger now. She's done more in her career in the last year at 73 than in all her years combined prior to that.
That's incredible.
So you look at it and go, think about Elon Musk's mother, who became a cover model in her 70s.
That's amazing.
Right? I mean, this is what we have to look at is what if our best is ahead of us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at let's say even Martha Stewart. Love her or hate her. Look at this woman on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She reinvented herself with Snoop Dogg. I mean, her career really,
heck, she was in jail. Look at her. Come on. Let's not dance around it.
Yeah, she was like a major rebound. Yeah. So, I mean, she went from scapegoat to superwoman, and she's in her 80s, and she looks amazing. And so I just think it's never too late. Now, let's get the young guy's perspective. Brody, do you have any questions for JJ?
My questions would be for people that aren't just like couch potatoes. When you're at like a higher level, balancing like having the output of like, how do you go about that? So like balancing athletic output with, say, you're trying to stay in shape or have a low degree of that body fat, right? Because like I've noticed that, for instance, and this is a question for you, I can eat almost the same level of calories, but sometimes it's so much harder to push through a workout than other times where it's just so easy, even though you're eating around the same thing. Is that a matter of the makeup of the macros, or like what is it to that, do you think?
So it could be the sleep you had the night before. It could be the level of stress you're under, right? And so that's the big things I look at is like, if you don't sleep well, all bets are off. Where do we get fit? We get fit in our recovery. Not in how hard, like we've got to push hard at the gym. We repair after the fact. How old are you?
29.
29.
I know.
So you're at an interesting age.
Yeah.
Because you're making the shift right now from being able to build muscle through hormones to having to rely on protein as a trigger for muscle protein synthesis. Right. And so now the amount of protein you eat at a meal matters. How much you eat overall matters. And so that's a different thing. And also the recovery is so mission critical. And then when you look at it, like I'm always looking at how to stay out of a rut because it's so easy to get into a rut.
Right.
One of the things we have to do when you look at resistance training, there's three things that you do during resistance training. You can do it to build muscle, you can do it to build strength, and you can do it to build power. They're actually three different things. And so most people go in because they want to build muscle. The reality is it's more important to build power and strength. So hypertrophy is doing something like, let's take a squat. If you wanted to build your quads and your glutes, you would do that squat. You do 3 sets of like anywhere from 6 to 30 reps, with the important thing being that when you get towards the end of those reps, you get to a point of 90%-ish failure, right? If you want to build strength, you would do a squat 1 to 5 times to failure, and you would do like 5 to 6 sets, and you take long breaks. If you wanted to do power, you would do a squat jump, or you would do a kettlebell thrust. You would do something that builds an explosive speed into it. And the deal is you need to do all of those. And then you also have to take those times where, and I never plan these because they happen. They happen when you travel. They happen is called deloading, where you give yourself a little rest and a shift, where you maybe for a week do some like yoga for that week, right? And you just kind of let your body shift, and then you come back. Whenever I do that, I hate it. I hate when I miss it. Like I just was where I couldn't do weights for like 5 days, and I was like, I couldn't wait to get back. But it's great when you get back, because you actually come back and you can come back stronger. But it's important to shift around those exercises, right? And move between the hypertrophy, the strength, and the power.
Right. Well, I think we undervalue how much you stress your central nervous system, and that's why you feel tired and you can come back the next time. Like I've recently done research on that as well. Because, like the traditional bodybuilder workout is like, I do this muscle group this day, I do this muscle group the next day, but your central nervous system is working every time. So like it's easy to forget that.
And I'm not a big fan of like isolation exercises. I believe that we don't train to be great at the gym. We train to be great at life. And at life, we have to get up off toilets. We have to pick things up off the floor. Like I love the Peter Attia centenarian decathlon idea of like, what do you want to be able to do at 100? Train for that now. And I was like, well, I certainly don't want to be the person going, can you get me off the toilet or out of the car?
Yes.
No, like, no.
And you don't have to be that person. I mean,
no, you don't.
If you subscribe to what JJ is talking about, you're not the person on the walker. You're not the person that needs special bars so you can lift yourself off the toilet. You're active aging, which is a thing. Yeah.
And by the way, what I see, so I lived in Palm Springs for years, and so I worked with a lot of clients who were 80 plus. And I remember going and sitting down with someone going, what are your goals? And she goes, I want to be able to keep dancing in stilettos. I'm like, amen, I'm in for it with you. But then I took one woman and I was training her out of a cardiac rehab center at Desert Hospital, and everyone was in there, and it was like, they didn't want to push any of them. So they're all on the treadmill, like walking along. And I have her doing pull-ups and dips. And all of a sudden, everyone's watching her, right? And they're like, well, we want to have what she's having. Because they just didn't think it was possible. The less you do, the less you do. Like if all of a sudden you say, oh, you're older, you shouldn't live with stairs. My mom was 93 and a half when she passed. She lived on, with stairs, and she went to the grocery store and she did all of her own stuff. And I really believe, like, if you look at the blue zone stuff, what's the biggest thing with the blue zones? It's not the food. It's the fact that they are they live in hills, they're actively moving and working. They stay doing that, and they stay relevant.
Yeah, that's what my late mom, same thing. She stayed relevant. It was cancer that got her at the end. But boy, she was on the dance floor with me and, on a New Year's Eve party, until the very end. And I think that, she was like a living testimony to what you're talking about and how true it is in our lives. I don't want to say goodbye to you without talking about something a little bit topical, which I think is so cool. I'm like, do I know anyone that went to Burning Man? And now I do. I want to hear you say that the news dramatized it in a way that is like indescribable. You were there, you were stuck a couple of days, but you said it wasn't that bad.
It was the best one we've gone to. This was number 6 or 7 for me. It was very interesting because I posted a little picture at Burning Man at this cool, because the art's so amazing. Like you get the greatest pictures ever. And I posted and I got all this hate. Like 1,000 people left my Instagram.
Why?
Like, because people who haven't been to Burning Man have an idea of what Burning Man is. And I can tell you that it's sure, you can do whatever you want anywhere in the world.
Right. And let's just say what she's saying. It's got a reputation of people doing drugs and having sex in the weeds or bushes or wherever.
There's no bushes or
they
weeds.
go.
They'd be in the dirt.
That's any
Then the
festival,
dirt.
though,
But I mean, you could do that if you want, but you could also stay home and do it, and you wouldn't spend. We joke, we spend more money to go out into the dirt for a week. We could fly first class to Paris and stay in a 5-star hotel. Why do we keep doing it? Because when you ride your bike out onto the playa at 10 o'clock at night and it looks like Las Vegas met Disneyland, and you realize that none of this was there a week before and everything got brought in, and you meet the most amazing people, and no one's wearing any brands. Everyone's just wearing all this fun costumes and stuff and dancing. And it's like, when you're at our age, you don't go to a club. When do you ever get to dance again?
That is true.
Like, you dance every day, you ride your bike all over the place. There's these amazing art cars. We had my girlfriend, Radha Agrawal, started this company called Daybreaker. We did that at 5 a.m. one morning. We got out. Daybreaker started. We danced till 8 a.m. Then I had another girlfriend my husband and I had one of our weddings there. Dave Asprey was our wedding officiant.
Wow.
Another girlfriend was there, and she goes, I think I'm going to get married while I'm here. There's a drunk Elvis chapel. And I go, I think you might regret that decision. Like, maybe we should do it in front of the temple and make it beautiful. And she did, and it was amazing. And so, like, I thought about, you go there and there's TEDx talks, there's lectures, there's the best DJs in the world are there. And
now you're making me
want
to go.
Bike riding.
Right.
You get to wear all these fun costumes. And part of the whole point of it, like, there's all these, I don't know if the rules would be kind of wrong because it's kind of anti-rules, but it's like, you leave no trace. You're radically self-reliant. So I'm laughing watching the news, because the whole point of Burning Man is you go there, it's a giving community. Like, there's no selling. Everyone just comes, and like, if someone's hungry, you just say, here, you want some of mine? Everyone feeds everybody. It's a very giving community who's radically self-reliant. So here we are. It's raining, of all things, there, which I checked the weather and it was like, I went, wow, this is going to be the best weather ever. And then poof, out of nowhere. But everyone's radically self-reliant. So literally people are sharing things, making it work. And then I get on, because we had Starlink, I get on the Twitter feed and I'm watching what they're saying is happening, that there's Ebola there. At Burning Man, they have art cars. People decorate these cars. They're amazing. And one of the big jokes was someone decorated an art car like Ebola and said, Ebola's coming to the playa. So some news person said, and I'm like, oh, brother. Right. Then there was cannibalism. I'm like, we've been here 2 days.
Yeah, no one's eating the other guy.
No one's starving here. The only problem is that they are not pumping out the porta potties. But we were in an RV. But overall, people had a blast dancing in the rain. I'm like, this is like not what you're hearing on the outside. And yes, some people hiked out. Some people in our camp decided to hike out at 11 p.m. and they said it was the most fun, magical thing. So we all just had a great time.
I think that's beautiful. I love that. What a great life story that is, and a real perspective from somebody who is actually there. JJ, this has been such an incredible conversation. I really appreciate you joining the Bloom Health Club.
Well, and I'm excited that you are thinking about coming to Burning Man next year.
I am. And I'm going to come to your new weight room and start biohacking myself.
Cold plunge.
Yeah.
That's right. You got it all.
All right. Thanks, Brody, too. We appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. All right. Goodbye, everybody.